Welcome to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show right here on VoiceAmericaMedia.com, America's Voice. We're in our 24th year here on Voice America. I've been on many different stations and many different platforms, but I have stayed consistently with Voice America throughout while I was doing other things. I love the network, and this is the program that shows you how to turn your problems into solutions and your obstacles into opportunities and make your dreams come true. And today we're talking about a subject that a lot of us go through. It could be in our middle life, it could be in our older adult years, it could be in our younger years too. And that's the subject of caregiving and what caregiving does to us if it's a lifelong project, and how we really have to look at that and look at self-care as well. My guest today is Shelly Grimm. She is a financial consultant, author, and founder of the Perpetual Caregiver, empowering families facing chronic illness. A ladypreneur recognized by the Worldwide Women's Association with 27 years of financial expertise, she helps ensure dignity, and peace of mind through unique tools like the Family Love Letter. Her new book is called Some Asses Just Need Wiping: Lessons on Holding It All Together as My Mother's Lifelong Caregiver. And her website is theperpetualcaregiver.com. Welcome, Shelly.
Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, I'm really happy about this. I know this has been quite a journey for you. You were a lifelong caregiver, and in that struggle, what came out of it is you're helping thousands of other people to understand it and be able to deal with it. Because this was not your journey began as a lifelong caregiver for your mother.
It
And
did.
as you said, the first woman diagnosed with Crohn's disease in the United States in 1956.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so let's talk about that. Talk about that journey and how you started being a caregiver um, as a teenager.
Well, people have asked me, how on earth could you be saddled with being a caregiver? When I do my intro in a speaking engagement, I say, at 5 years old, I was introduced to uh, the fact that my mother was perhaps not coming home from the hospital when she let me know that she was very, very sick and might not be coming back home, and letting me know that my care might be being beholden to my father or my grandmother, but not sure where I was going to go. Um, Really, it's a matter at that age of taking care more of yourself. I think as small children, we don't know what is supposed to be done for us when we're very small. We are naturally looking to our parents to do the things that we can't do for ourselves. But as we're shown to do things when we're small, we look for that help. But when you're small and someone's sick, you just continue to do the things that you can do for yourself. And those things are often cooking your own breakfast and, doing your own laundry, folding your own clothes at a much younger age than you would normally do. So those were the things that I was doing for myself at a really young age.
What, how did that affect you? I mean, as you look back at it and you looked at other kids your age that weren't doing that, what was the effect of that, Shelley? Both positive and maybe not so positive.
You know, at the time, I didn't really look at it differently. It wasn't until I, much later in life, quite frankly, that I looked at it as having missed out. It was at the time I was praised for my efforts, and I was praised for my energy and of those around me. My mother was so very sick, and of course, no one at the time even called it Crohn's disease. Dr. Crohn hadn't begun working on the research for it, so it was called terminal ileitis. No one even really knew what it was. So, with my mother being so sick and my doing so much, she was a single mom. With my doing so much, no one was telling me anything negative. I was only getting positive praise. And so you kind of
Right,
know how that goes with kids.
right.
If you're getting accolades, you do more. If
Right,
you're getting
right,
positive
right.
reports, you do more. So I looked for more and more and more things to do that were positive, as opposed to, looking at the negative side of it, um, which just made me
So,
miss out on more children's things, quite frankly.
right. So the hard part was maybe missing out on things other kids did. The good part, as I'm hearing, is that you became responsible at a young age.
Very, very responsible at a young age, and very, forward thinking. I look at things now and I'm terribly resourceful. That has been a blessing. Um, I do have a neurodivergent adult child now, who was diagnosed when he was very young, and they didn't know what neurodivergency was then either. So, I knew he was a little different from very young, and had to be very resourceful with his things as well as his resources, and help get him his the necessary things that helped him succeed, at least to the ability that he was able to get there. And so all of those things actually played a very big part in my success. Um, but I sure would have rather gone to proms.
Hmm.
I would have rather been outside playing with the kids in the water hose instead of inside feeding my mom baby food. But
What
that was not
what do
the
you say now to parents in your situation? I'm sure you talk to parents who have young children who have to help. And I assume you were doing most of this yourself, or there's siblings involved.
no. I have a half sister who was 8 years older than I was. She and my mom lived with my grandmother when my mother divorced her first husband. Before my sister was actually even born, she recognized very quickly that he was going to be nothing but a deterrent versus someone who would be a help to her. So she cut him loose before my sister was even born and lived with my grandmother. So my sister continued to stay with my grandmother. So my sister wasn't of a tremendous help to me personally.
Hmm.
But my grandmother did um, take on the regular duty of making sure that there was always food at my house and that we were always fed.
Yeah.
Or she would cook dinner and we would go there. But no, I didn't really have any help from my siblings. And my mother was a pretty uh, difficult person.
Yeah.
She was in pain all the time. She was,
Yeah.
miserable. So she wasn't a great
It
person to be around.
it sounds like your grandmother was a very positive influence on you and very helpful. And so I guess that's my question that I didn't finish asking because I asked a second question. And that is, what do you say to parents or to kids, who come to you and say, this is a hard burden on me. What do you say?
Advice.
Do you
Hmm.
say to them, do you have a grandmother? Do you have an aunt or uncle?
I do. I do. What I've done for years is tried to help them assimilate what is your support network. There are not only extended family, but there are generally neighbors and friends, and there is an extended network that goes. Sometimes there's friends and an extended network that are more adept at helping than your actual extended family. And I say
Hmm.
that because sometimes families worn out, and I don't mean that harshly.
Hmm.
Um, my mother had Crohn's disease for 14 years before they had a medication that she could take.
Wow.
So if you think about that now, we see Tremfya and Rinvoq, and I mean, you
Mm,
name it. What we can
yeah,
name those, we can rattle them off,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um, but back then, they didn't have
yeah,
anything. So if you
right.
think, I don't even know if they had Pepto-Bismol back then.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself, but
What's interesting is the fact that you are in finances. I mean, I look at that as an outsider, as an interviewer, and I say that's something that had to have helped her be able to be independent, understanding finances
she
at a
did.
young age.
Oh, me, yes. Yes, yes, yes. I will tell you, my father was independently wealthy. So I had a very, oh, interesting and very messed up view of money. Um, One day I'll write a different book. Uh, let's see how it plays out first. But I grew up extremely poor, and I grew up without any monetary support.
Mm.
Um, my father, on the other hand, was extremely wealthy and a business owner here in town. And so it was a very, I grew up knowing what the haves had and what the haves not didn't have, and
Mm.
I experienced both sides. And it's in my book.
Mm.
Um, my book talks about it a lot, and I'll expound on it some when I write the
Yeah, yeah,
second book.
we're going to take a break, but I find that so interesting that you knew you had that and yet you couldn't have it. You
Didn't
know,
have it
that's an interesting thing. And yet, again, leading you to what you're doing now, which is counseling people about this, about being financially independent. So whatever that hardship was, Shelley, you've used that to be able to not only help yourself, but now thousands of other people.
exactly.
And I mean that's that's really so admirable, and not everybody
Oh,
does
thanks.
that. Some people just go through life being angry and
Yeah,
saying that SOB,
yeah.
and you didn't do that, which
I
is what
didn't.
I love to profile on this show
Oh,
because
good.
we have a choice. We have a
We do
choice in
every day,
everything. You have a
every day.
choice. You can, and it doesn't mean it's not hard, and it doesn't mean you're not unhappy about it, and it doesn't mean you don't grieve. But
Every
what it
day.
means is you still know how to work through it. And
Yep.
in our second segment and the rest of the segments, Shelley's going to talk about what did she do? What are the skills that she learned that can help you if you are a child having to take care of a parent at a young age, or a parent knowing your child has to take care of you, or a child knowing that one parent might have something and another doesn't, and you don't have what you need. We'll talk all about that and how can we overcome that and move through it. You're listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show right here on VoiceAmericaMedia.com. And the name of the book is Asses Just Need Wiping. Lessons on Holding It Together as My Mother's Lifelong Caregiver. And you can log on to theperpetualcaregiver.com. Stay
Thanks.
tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone, and we are back. We are talking to Shelly Grimm about caregiving at a very young age. Her book is Some Asses Just Need Wiping, Lessons on Holding It All Together as My Mother's Lifelong Caregiver. So welcome back, Shelly.
Thanks. Glad
So
to
the
be here.
question I have for you right off the bat, even though we'll get into your story more, is what do you say to somebody listening to this who either a parent with a child who's having to take care of them, or a child who, really it's hard, but they do it because they need to, and or someone who's struggling financially because of all of this with being a caregiver. So give us a few tips in the middle of your
Sure.
stories.
Sure. The first thing I would say is that the financial burden is the worst part of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I wish I could tell you that if money were abundant and that was never an object that was going to stop us from being able to take care of everyone, this would never be a problem.
Mm,
So if you just think of it from that standpoint and you
mhm.
say if somebody just showed up every single time that there was a need,
And
90, I always say 93% of our problems would be taken care of by money
well, I believe that, and I've
for
often said
caregiving.
that. I've often said that, and I've often said, people say money doesn't buy happiness, and
Gives
I
you
say that's
options.
not true because it really does alleviate a lot of burdens. But my question to you is, if your father was financially independent, how did he not play into this in terms of helping?
Because the help would have helped my mother and it would have not necessarily changed my circumstance. And he pragmatically looked at it from that standpoint. So my the reason that I say that money will alleviate most of your caregiving
Right,
situations is that the delegation of the duties of
right,
caregiving
right.
are what wear us out, right? So the 7%, and I've kind of narrowed it down to that, okay? Because I have a care continuity assessment that I can do and kind of help people determine what their blind spots are. And it comes down to about 7%. And that 7% is the worst that you can't do anything about because it's all emotional. It is the love portion that you can't turn off. It's the piece that if you're a child and your mother is sick or your father is sick or the person that is your um, primary caregiver. I say that meaning your primary care, in my situation, my mother was my lifeline. I was 5, I was 6, I was 7, I was 8, whatever I was, right? Until I became a grown person. She was the only person I knew in my whole life that had taken care of me, albeit a horrible job. Okay,
Mm,
let me better say that. My mother was not a fantastic mother. She was a phenomenal human being. She was a talented, beautiful person. If you find yourself in that kind of situation, you have got to make sure that the people that are also responsible for your care know about your situation. And I say that meaning that I never told any of my teachers. I never told any of my close friends' parents. They kind of knew my mom was sick, but I don't think they really knew my situation. They
mhm,
didn't know that I needed rides to school. Um, they didn't know that I needed bridges. They didn't know I needed help with homework.
mhm,
They didn't know the things that they didn't know were critical. And so when I'm talking to young people, I ask questions. And so when you say, what would you say to? I would say to the adults in the room, the child is never going to tell you what's going on. They think all of this is normal. So when you are with a young person that you have an inkling things are not right at home for some reason, no
mm,
matter what it is, you need to ask questions that can develop a conversation with that
mhm,
young person.
mhm,
And that's who knew my stories.
mhm.
Um, were people that were interested in having conversations with me that
Yeah,
didn't run from me.
yeah, which,
So
yeah.
that's hard to do, right? That's hard to take a real
Right, and you have
interest
to have that kind of
mindset.
knowledge base, right, at
Yep.
that age to be able to ask those questions.
Yep. And so it
Yeah.
really does. What the key is being in tune enough with the children that your child is playing with, being observant enough
Right.
about that child or those children that your children are with, and being in tune enough with the adults that they're around. Um, the only thing that people were interested in where my mother was concerned, she was a writer. And so my mom would be pounding away on she would sleep during the day because I was at school, and she would be up in the evening. So most people were grateful that she was up in the evening because she would take me and my friends everywhere we wanted to go, and they didn't have to do anything. They could cook dinner and they could spend the evenings at home with their husbands. She was a single
Right.
mom. They were just happy that she was the one that would do everything.
Right.
They didn't bother to find out why. All they knew is she was a beautiful single
Yeah.
woman,
Yeah.
and she stayed away from their husbands.
Right. So there was a lot of hidden stuff here. A lot of people really didn't know what you were going through, is kind of what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, and the ones that did, like I said, she'd already been married twice.
Right.
This was in the 60s.
Right.
She was a very pretty woman. I mean, you
So
know,
I think what you're saying here, what I'm getting is to the parent and to the child, try to talk to people. Even if something doesn't feel right, talk to somebody. So, because as a child, sometimes you don't trust your own thoughts, you're not sure.
hmm
And get somebody who understands and then helps you to have your voice
hmm
so you can share really what's going on,
hmm
because not everybody can. I think
hmm
that's what you're saying,
it
and
is,
getting as much support as you can,
as you can,
you
and
know.
as you comfortably can. As I said, I told someone on a podcast the other day, I said, it's scary sometimes to reach out to a neighbor who is ill, because you also worry that you'll get on the hook, right? You'll get on the hook for I'm cooking dinner every night for the neighbor next door, or, I'm running all the errands for the neighbor next door. But that's why I've offered, as I call it, my caregiver comeback kit, where it's kind of like, hey, I want to help. How do I help? Maybe you could help me help. And so there are times where I actually, help run interference for someone who says, hey, I've got somebody who's sick and I'd kind of like to put together a schedule or a care plan. I've actually stepped in and done those things for people and said, okay, who's on first? Who's on second? Who's on third? So um, happens that sometimes you need someone that's not involved in the meeting, or not involved in the emotional gathering, or the emotional I'm not there, right? I'm not the person
Mhm.
that loves the sick person, so
Mhm.
I can be there and say, okay, what's your role?
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
who are
yeah,
you? And
yeah,
nobody gets offended because
yeah.
I'm just a care planner is the way they look at me.
Right,
Um,
right.
and I'm able to ask the hard questions. Okay, how much is that going to cost? And
Yeah,
nobody gets offended.
right. Which is great. I mean, you've made this a lifelong work based on what you went through.
Yeah,
Talk about the financial piece in terms of how you became a financial planner and how that all ties into this, Shelley.
yep. Well, it was very happens chance, I'll say. I was working in the legal field, and I had been doing that I kind of fell into that as well, but I was working in the legal field. I typed really fast. That's really how I ended up in the legal field. I typed 103 words a minute. My mom was an exceptionally fast typer as well, so we just kind of flew at that. They started making me type in fifth grade in a resource class. They thought I was super smart, so they threw me in that. And before I left fifth grade, I had to type 55 words a minute. So
Mm,
that started me on my lifelong journey of knowing how to
mm,
type fast. And so when I moved to New Orleans, when I was 18, the first job I found was as a receptionist and title clerk for a law firm. And then people started bringing me papers to type for them in college at Tulane. And I was going to Tulane as well. So I started typing all these grad student papers. And so I just turned into a paralegal at some point in time. And then my son, when I think I mentioned in your first segment that he's neurodivergent. When he got his diagnosis, and I started needing to get tutors, and um, he was also diagnosed as dyslexic. I needed tutors and I needed counselors, and they weren't on the health plan. And I got divorced, and he dropped the health insurance, and you name 50,000 other things that happened. I was like, I'm not making enough money. So I decided to start looking for something else to do. And
mm.
I had a friend of mine say, you need to go sell something. So I started looking at selling long distance telephone plans. And then another friend said, no, you need to go sell insurance. And I said, I don't have a finance degree. And they said, you really don't need one. So that's how I fell into financial services. I started out with Snoopy with MetLife, and I loved Snoopy from a little kid. I loved Charlie Brown, my dad,
Mm,
and I watched it every
yeah,
Sunday night. So
yeah.
that's how I started out, and I just did like everybody else. I started out as a financial services
Mm,
person,
yeah.
selling insurance, and
But what's nice about this is that, when you advise children or parents, you can advise them on the whole picture. What was it like emotionally? What should they start to do to save and be aware of money? And that's such a wonderful gift. Shelley, we're going to take a break, and when we come
yep,
back, we're going to talk more. We'll talk more about the family love letter, which is
that's
something
perfect.
that you speak about. And we want to know what that is.
Sure.
So stay tuned, folks. You're listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show on VoiceAmericaMedia.com, America's Voice. My guest is Shelly Grimm, a financial consultant, author, and founder of the Perpetual Caregiver, empowering families facing chronic illness. And her book is called Some Asses Just Need Wiping, Lessons on Holding It Together, All Together, as My Mother's Lifelong Caregiver. And the website is theperpetualcaregiver.com. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. We are back. You're listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show right here on VoiceAmericaMedia.com. My guest is Shelly Grimm. And Shelley is a financial consultant, author, and founder of the Perpetual Caregiver, empowering families facing chronic illness. The Ladypreneur, recognized by a worldwide women's association with 27 years of financial expertise, she helps ensure dignity and peace of mind through the unique tools like the Family Love Letter, which we're going to talk about next. Her book is Some Asses Just Need Wiping, Lessons on Holding It All Together as My Mother's Lifelong Caregiver, and the website is theperpetualcaregiver.com. Welcome back, Shelley. Let's talk about the love letter.
All right. Well, it is something that I have been working with. It's a tool that's designed to kind of create clarity when most people are functioning at the chaos level. It is designed to organize and document the information that's necessary when someone needs it, and the voice that would need to be providing the information has either become incapacitated or perhaps has passed away. And the times when we are normally trying to provide that information or procure that information is not usually the easiest time to find that. Um, the Family Love Letter was created by a gentleman in Atlanta. He's an estate planning attorney. His name is Jeff Scroggin. And my dear friend, and also happened to be my business coach many, many years ago, Donna Pagano, is the president of the Family Love Letter. And it is simply a tool. It is in a
Hmm.
book. booklet form. And we also have it on a digital drive. You can store it that way as well. But we procure all of the passwords, the where is your lockbox, your passwords to your computer, your will, who has that, what attorneys do you use, your CPAs, your do you have a storage facility?
Yeah.
Do you all the things that we forget that we even have? Um, but at the time that they're needed, most people don't have the ability to provide that.
Hmm.
And we found over the years as being financial advisors that we possess some of that information, and sometimes we're the only ones that possess it. Sometimes the
Hmm.
attorneys possess it, sometimes a favored niece possesses it, but no one has possessed it all. And so over the years, what drove Jeff Scroggin to develop this is that his own father, who he did his estate plan for, who when he passed away, he could not locate his father was eligible to be buried in Arlington Cemetery,
Mm.
but he could not find his DD 214s. And his father had told him they were in a drawer, but when he went to look in that particular drawer, they weren't in that drawer. And so apparently his father had moved them to a safer place, but had failed to tell Jeff where those were. So he spent about a week looking for those documents, and you can't be buried at, even with a military funeral of any
Mm.
type without the DD 214s. And those are a booger bear to try to even obtain. It
Mm.
is not an easy feat
Right.
to have happen. So things as critical as that, meaningful as that, or something as I'll say as low key as what's the password to my computer to be able to pay the electric bill after my husband's passed away,
Hmm.
because he's the one who took care of that.
Hmm.
And I had a client who that was her situation. She, literally was not on. He was an attorney.
Right.
That was what he
Yeah.
chose to take care of. He was 51 years old. He went out for a run. He didn't come home. So we have, as I said, for years, I've done that. I was in management and in a corporate VP role, and I've always used that as my baseline, whether it was the actual family love letter tool, which I choose to use, or whether the company, the Fortune 50 company I was working for, had their own tool.
So the love letter is not so much an emotional piece.
It is.
It's more a financial piece.
It's a financial piece that we turn into an emotional piece at the very end of it. I actually, there is an ethical will that we have in the back of it that I extend and have some people choose to use it as strictly cut and dry. Here's all we're putting it in. Generally, I'll be honest with you, Patricia, women are the ones who are usually charged with this task. The wallet share in the household is 90%. 90% of women in the household are the ones who make the wallet decision. And they usually have about 100% veto power in the household as to what
Hmm.
that deployment goes to. So women are generally the ones who join I call it a family love letter retreat, and I do it in a destination. I'll have one May 1st through the 4th in at Glen Isle Resort in Bailey, Colorado. And those are where generally, as I said, I do have some men that come with their wife and they go fishing in Platte River, or they go hiking somewhere else and they come back to the retreat and say, "Hey, honey, what did we get done?" But at the end of it, it does have an ethical will portion. And then we also encourage them to write letters to their family and say, "Hey, these are the things I hope for your life. These are the things I wish for your life."
Right. Right.
The ethical will I have encouraged people to do so that they know what they want their family to carry on, what traditions. Um, my son got a divorce this year, and I have been writing letters to my kids since they were 7 and 9 years old, in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and telling them all the things that I wanted to say the past year, but I didn't. Whether it's because I didn't and I kept my mouth shut, or whether it was that I didn't because I just forgot. But I had a lot of things to say this past year that I didn't say when my son got divorced. And so I wrote a lot of things in there. I have a spiral. And so I know a lot of people have taken me up on that, and they're writing letters to their families over the past 20 years that I've been doing this. And so when they pass
Yeah.
away, they actually have that to leave for their
Yeah.
families. And so
Yeah.
you
So
can
it's a
take this in any
combination,
direction.
is what you're saying. It's a combination of financial things so that people understand, but also a combination of what your hopes and dreams are and your appreciation of the person.
Yes, it can
That's what
be.
it sounds
It's
like.
heavy work. It's heavy work. I've never had anyone come out of my retreat or my workshop. I used to do them in workshop formats. I've never had anybody come out of that and not be profoundly
Mhm.
moved by the
Mhm.
experience. So I do call it the family love letter experience.
Yeah. One thing I haven't done yet, but I was thinking for my family member, is making a list and just sending to them or having it of all
That's
of
in
the
there too.
accounts, all of the payments, all of the everything.
Well, if you think
Just,
about it, I've had so many times over my 28 years where I've had someone rush in and they've scooped up mom or dad and they've rushed them off to Florida or they've rushed them off to Nebraska or wherever it was. They've closed all the accounts down. And guess what? Something was drafting from that account that was insurance related.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What if
It
that's
can
your
happen
long-term
so
care?
easily.
Yeah. And if that's your long-term care policy and mom or dad was depending on that to put them into a long-term care facility and Bubba or Julie rushed in, closed the account, and that got lapsed, then all of
Mm.
a sudden one day they're calling and saying, Mom said they took a policy out with you. And I'm saying, well, she did, but I didn't know where
Yeah,
she went.
yeah, yeah. So
So
you spend a lot of time in prevention with helping people, and that's also all part of this. I mean, it ties into all of it in
it
terms
does.
of what you do, with caregiving. I think it's really important. So you use the love letter, but as you said, this is not like a one-time thing. This
Mm-mm.
could be 3 or 4 sessions. Now, you do this online?
I do it online, but I do it one-on-one online.
Okay.
The way that it is, I hate to say this, but it's really not a group activity, other than when you're in, say, a workshop and I keep those small, or when you're in a retreat and I keep those small. My max level at a retreat is 24 people. That's the sweet spot. And my max in a small workshop, if I do it online, is 6 people. So I try not to get the groups real big. And the reason that I don't is because it is heavy. It is
Hmm.
heavy. And I like to give people,
Hmm.
I like to hold space for them so
Hmm.
that you get, because it is a 3 hour, we spend 3 hours together 2 times, and then I give them some homework to go do. And then I do also give them an opportunity to work with me one on one for 2 hours individually, each of those people. So
So let me ask you, how does the love letter fit into the title of your book? Some asses just need wiping. Lessons on holding it all together as my mother's lifelong caregiver. This is part of that, holding it all together.
well, my some asses just need wiping is the reality. Some asses just need wiping.
You
It's
just have
kind
to
of
do
the,
it for them. You just
just
have to
have
do it
to
for
do,
them.
there's some people I've never gotten them to be. I wish I could tell you that everybody takes me up on, come do the love letter and write all these things down yourself. Excuse me. Some people, quite honestly, Patricia, I just got to do it for 'em.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what you're saying though here is you're giving people the tools to do it, but you're also there for them. So, the lessons from being the caregiver for your mom is to me teaching people how to be independent. And also, do you talk to children or teenagers who have to do this, how to take care of themselves?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like you said, I offer a lot of grace. Um, I've still got a sister that's extremely angry and extremely
Mm,
bitter and calls our
mm,
mother Teeny.
mm,
She does not have a relationship with our deceased mother.
mm,
So I spend a lot of time saying, do you think they wanted that?
mhm.
Had they
Right,
had a choice? Do
right.
you think they'd have
Right.
picked
Yeah, yeah. That's the problem. We get angry. We
at
get
the wrong
angry because they have an issue that affects us, and we need to realize this is right. This is the way it happened. This is not
time?
about us. Yeah.
That
And
was
then we have a choice, as you said, if you have the means, then you get somebody to do it. You get
yeah,
somebody you're still there, but you
yeah,
get somebody to do the task if you can do that.
yeah,
And that's where I think was a very important point you made about money. It
yeah.
makes it easier.
It
Right?
just
It
makes it
makes it
easier.
easier, much easier. All right, when we
Absolutely.
come back, we're going to give some tips in our final segment to our listeners today. And we're going to talk about What are some tips you can implement that build the support systems that you need? Particularly because you know what? We're all caregivers at a certain time in our life,
No matter
even
what.
if it's just a little while, right? And we're parents, we're caregivers. As our parents get older, we become caregivers in some way. All
That's
right,
it.
you're listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show right here on voiceamericamedia.com. My guest is Shelly Grimm. And Shelly is a financial consultant, author, and founder of the Perpetual Caregiver, and she empowers families who are facing chronic illness. Her book, Some Asses Just Need Wiping, Lessons on Holding It All Together as My Mother's Lifelong Caregiver. Log on to theperpetualcaregiver.com. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone, and we are back. You are listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show right here on voiceamericamedia.com. We're talking about caregiving with Shelly Grimm. And Shelly Grimm is a financial consultant, author, and founder of the Perpetual Caregiver, empowering families facing chronic illness. She's a lady entrepreneur and has been recognized by the Worldwide Women's Association with 27 years of financial expertise. She helps ensure dignity and peace of mind through unique tools like the Family Love Letter, which we're going to talk about again in a moment. Her book is Some Asses Just Need Wiping, Lessons on Holding It All Together as My Mother's Lifelong Caregiver, and the website is theperpetualcaregiver.com. Welcome back, Shelly.
Thank
All
you.
right. Tell us about, with this love letter that we talked about, people putting their financial statements together and also their roles and their goals together. You do retreats on all of this, as well as workshops. You do
Right.
retreats. Talk about
Yes.
that.
The retreat, I gear that towards a relaxation, resource driven, um, really more to kind of get away from it all while you take the time to put all that information into one place. Um, I have geared it towards those who are seeking some respite, I guess is the best way to put that. Um, they don't have to be a caregiver, but I think the way that I look at it, Patricia, and I think you alluded to that a little bit, is that we're all caregivers. Um, whether we're a mom or a dad, or whether we're an aunt or an uncle, a brother or a sister, we've all at some point taken care of something. Something. I don't. Yeah, it could be, a
Absolutely.
gerbil. I mean, we've taken care of
Right.
something. So the way that I look at these caregiver retreats is that it's an opportunity for people to step back, from their daily lives and to do something for themselves. And that is to put all of their important information down into a booklet and down into it, as I said, that comes in a digital drive as well. Information that is going to benefit their family or the person who's going to be charged with taking care of things whenever they become incapacitated or pass away.
Right.
And they do that in this peaceful environment. Now,
Hmm.
at this particular retreat, it is going to be taking place at Glen Isle Resort in Bailey, Colorado. It sits right on the Platte River in a beautiful area right outside of Denver in the Rocky Mountains. And in addition to it having that beautiful, serene area, there's individual cabins throughout. You have the opportunity to either be in a cabin by yourself, a cabin with a companion that you choose, or you can be randomly put into a cabin where you actually have your own place to sleep, but that there's other people in bedrooms with you, in another bedroom in the same cabin. Um, but the other nice part is that I bring in people who are going to do facials, who are going to do, there's someone going to be there to do hair. There's going to be someone there to give massages.
Hmm.
I bring someone in to do food service. There is also kitchens right there in the cabin. So if you choose not to participate in the food
Yeah, that's
service,
great.
you can actually cook your own food.
Yeah.
So, you get to participate as much or as little as you want. I do hold 2 3-hour sessions to complete the family love letter. And for someone that wants to do it one on one as opposed to being in the group, I tell them they probably should get a cabin by themselves and they can work with me one on one. They can
Hmm.
book time with me one on
Yeah,
one.
which is great.
So it really does offer the best of both worlds. I guess I'll say best of all worlds, because
Yeah.
if you're doing it as a family, you can get one cabin, come as a family, and I work with the whole family.
Yeah, that's a terrific. That's terrific.
Yeah, it's really a great
Really, really can save
opportunity.
a lot of heartache and also bring people
Oh,
together.
yes,
Bring people
yes.
together. What are some quick tips before we go? We have 4 minutes left. What are
Sure,
some quick things that listeners can implement to build support system, particularly if they're caregivers?
sure. Talk. Talk,
Yeah,
talk, 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 talk,
yeah,
talk.
yeah.
And I say that you need to, I have some, and I will certainly share them so you can put in your notes, your show notes. I have some materials that are several pages long that I share on my website as well, that are just ways to start conversations. They are just very simple 1 line, 2 line scripts so that you can figure out ways to start the conversations with people that you care for.
Give us an example. Give us an example.
Sure. I think one of the hardest things to talk about is, would it be okay if someone else started taking you to your doctor's appointments?
Hmm.
Would it be okay if we had somebody else come in on Tuesday nights to feed you dinner?
Hmm.
Would
Hmm.
it be okay if
Hmm.
I stayed somewhere else next weekend and
Hmm.
had someone else come and stay here with you?
Hmm.
Would it be okay if we looked at calling on Meals on Wheels to start
Hmm.
bringing one of the
Hmm.
meals to us every day or two
Right.
or three times a
And,
week?
and what you're doing when you do that is you're still giving people their independence. You're not saying, "Oh, you can't do this anymore."
Right.
You're saying it's like an addition, a help. And I think that's very important, is what you're saying is to let people know that they're still valued and worthy and have the independence, but you're giving them extra support. It's like
Yep.
wearing glasses or wearing hearing
It
aids. You're
is.
giving them extra support.
Yep.
Yeah. All
Or you
right,
can say
close.
things. One other way to put that, just another way to put that is, hey, I was watching something on TV the other day, and immediately when it came on, I thought of you.
Mm, great, great.
And they're
All
like,
right.
you thought of me?
Yeah,
But it makes them feel like, oh, I'm always on your mind.
that's right. Closing thoughts. What do you want to
I,
leave our listeners with?
yeah, I want everyone here to know that there is not one single person who is being cared for right now that wants to be. Sometimes I think people that are caring for people think that that's all they want. They just want us to just care for them and care for them and care for them and care for them. But I promise you that if you sat that person down today and said, what would you want more than anything in life? They'd say, to be able to do all of this for me,
Mhm.
myself.
Right. And
Do
so
that with
that's
love and grace. Know that they would really
absolutely
like to do that for
right.
themselves.
And so you're helping them so they can do other things, or as much as they can. Shelley, it's been delightful to have you on the program. I really appreciate
Thank you.
it. You come with wisdom and knowledge and grace and such compassion and caring.
Oh,
And if people want to
thanks.
find you, you're welcome. If people want to find you, they can go to theperpetualcaregiver.com. Is there a place they can write to you on the website?
There is an info at,
Okay.
and there's also a contact support form there. So
Wonderful.
either place.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, stay on the line for a minute. All right, folks, this wraps up this edition of the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show on Voice America's Voice or voiceamericamedia.com. Just want to share if you'd like to get a copy of my monthly newsletter, I send it out the first day of every month. And that shares all the guests I'm having on. And if you'd like that, write to me, Patricia at patriciaraskin.com. Also, if you would like to create your own podcast, if you'd like to get your positive message out in a series, in a podcast series, I've interviewed over 6,000 people in my career, and I'd love to help you. So contact me. Remember, stay healthy, and that's Patricia at patriciaraskin.com. Remember, stay healthy, stay happy, get the support you need, and know you can make your dreams come true. Until next time, I'm Patricia Raskin. Bye for now.